Welcome to another episode of Day One Radio. We appreciate y'all watching on Live Hip Hop Daily. Appreciate y'all listening on all the different podcast apps through our partners at CLNS Media. And shout out to all the Android users, man. We are finally on Google Play. We were on there for a minute. For some reason, it wasn't on there no more. I think they have a new Google Podcast app. So I got an email the other day saying that we are good, so y'all should be able to listen to the new episodes and all the archives. And before we get into the interview, I got to give two quick shout outs. As y'all know, we are in Atlanta, Georgia, so they just had a draft party that the Atlanta Hawks invited me and Maurice, who is not here today, to last week, and it was pretty dope, man. And I got to shout out to you. They got a Lloyd Pierce as their coach, dude. Is 42 years old. Young black dude, came from Philly, one of the defensive masterminds behind how good Philly was, on defense last year. And I think they, I think they're going to be able to do something like, as y'all know, I'm a Warriors fan, so I don't really care about any other team. But you got to support those who support you. And Coach Pierce has been supporting most definitely the things that we doing. So shout out to them. Shout out to the Hawks. Great turnout, man. And I'm hoping that y'all do well this year, man. I got a nice young core of athletes, shooters, and playmakers. So it should be exciting. Even if they don't win a ton of games, it should be exciting. And secondly, shout out to Bobbito, man, who was in town last weekend. He had a screening for Rock Rubber 45's, his documentary on his life. And it was ill, man. Like I've been following Bobbito for a very long time, and it's a gang of stuff that I didn't even know about his life, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I believe pre-orders are up now, and it's available digitally July 24th. But he gets deep, man, into his childhood and into a lot of like things that happened in his life that shaped his life and things he didn't deal with until he was in his 40s, man. And I think this is one of those ones that's going to inspire a lot of people, not just, artistically or basketball or sneaker-wise, which are things we know Bobbito for, but also just life-wise. But, appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all go support. Definitely good projects. And next week, we'll also talk to you about Sorry to Bother You, Boots' new film, Boots from the Coup, man. We got cats from the town, cats from hip-hop doing major things, man, getting noticed by Hollywood, which is great. And that movie drops July 6th, but we'll talk to y'all about it, give our review next week. But without further ado, man, this brother, it's funny how things happen, man. Me and this brother Digga have a mutual homeboy, and we were actually in the same room at the same time. Right. Like a month ago, and didn't really, chop it up or whatever. And I know his work, but didn't know you by face. Right. And, our homeboy Lotto was like, man, y'all need to talk. He'd be a great guest on the podcast. And, we always like telling stories that haven't been told correctly or haven't really been told at all. And I feel like your stories is one of those unsung stories in hip-hop to an extent. So, over 30 million records sold, work with 50, Cam, J-Lo, right, Jay-Z, Busta, Ghostface, the list goes on and on and on. Harlem's own Digga. What's poppin', bro?
What's going on, man?
Good, man. Thank you. So, let's start at the beginning, man. Growing up in Harlem, and we're around the same age, so you've been around since, the genesis, even if you were too young to even know it, right. Of hip-hop. And we always hear about New York City and the block parties and the park jams and all of that stuff. And it's been great MCs coming out of Harlem forever. We can go back to damn Teddy Riley with hip-hop in Harlem, St. Nick. So what was your first memory of hip-hop and really loving hip-hop?
My first memory of hip-hop probably started with my uncle Al B. He was the DJ for a rap group called the Disco 4. Okay. And they were one of the groups from Harlem that was signed to Enjoy Records with the Treacherous Three, and so on, and Bobby Robinson. So he was the first one that really got me into hip hop. So when I used to come, be at my grandmother's house, walk in his room, I seen all the records and the vinyl and the music playing and the big speakers, and seeing him, take the big speakers and go out to the park and play music. That I just wanted to really know what that was about. and I just kind of fell in love with the DJing part first.
Okay. So you were the DJing thing, which is, the DJs at that time were damn near more important than the MCs.
Definitely. I mean, the DJs, I remember the old Flyers and his whole crew, the Sapphire crew, was the DJs first.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So the DJs was definitely, the number one thing. I mean, I at the time when I was young, I didn't even really know about the rappers per se. The DJ was the most important thing because that was the person that was playing the music. So I just fell in love with that, and he taught me about records and let me get on the turntables, and then I just started from there.
Gotcha. So did you? So DJing was first before you rapping, before you producing.
Absolutely,
any of that? Okay.
Absolutely. DJing was first.
So did you come in the game nice with a couple 1200s, or did you come in with like the
Nah, I came in.
Belt drive.
I came in. Well, I had direct drive turntables, but they were his.
Okay, got you.
So he passed them. He passed them down to me. And I had those for a minute until they didn't work anymore.
Okay.
And then, Christmas came around, bugged my mother to buy me my own set.
Okay.
And I did get belt drive turntables for Christmas, though.
Okay, got you. That's what's up. For sure. So how did you end up, were you doing like parties around the city, or were you just in the hood, or were you just at home practicing ready for your moment?
I started off when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, wow. You started super early.
So I started doing it, started DJing and learning about music and break beats, going back, different parts of the song and all of that stuff early on. I never really went into the whole big DJ phase of like, okay, now I know how to DJ now. I want to rock parties and stuff like that. I immediately started going into really wanting to rap in production.
Gotcha.
Because my grandfather at that time, he was into music. He had his own record label as well. He worked with different artists like Otis Redding and stuff like that. So
you just came from a musical family.
It was definitely in me, and he always told me, you don't want to be the person in front of the screen. You want to be the person in the back. That's who make all the money.
Gotcha. And he knew firsthand.
Right, he knew firsthand, and he was the person that was actually doing that. Yeah. So he worked with another producer named Patrick Adams that kind of started the whole disco phase and everything with Black Ivory and all of that stuff too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was kind of around all of that as a youngster.
You got a nice education, man. Mm-hmm. So beats, man. What was the first time that you were like, okay, let me slide into production? Because I heard you say when you were rapping, but you didn't really like your voice.
Right, yeah, of course. I mean, even now my voice is all deep. People say I got a little baby face with a deep voice. So early on I didn't really like that, but. Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of the next phase of things. You DJing, then you say, okay, well, they rapping, let me try to rap. But when I started rapping, that's when I realized, I needed my own beats. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And necessity.
It kind of just got me into the next phase of, okay, and even then my uncle, he actually kind of graduated to DJing and production and dabbling into that, and even rapping and having his own group. So I kind of just watched his process.
It's kind of a trip because, I think damn near every producer up until maybe the mid 90s was a DJ first.
Oh, absolutely.
You didn't really have too many people coming in the game like, I want to produce, and that's the first thing that they did.
And part of that, I believe, is because of the equipment factor.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
The technology. You couldn't.
Studio time was expensive.
Right. Even just thinking about back then it was like, if you want to do production, you had to get a drum machine, and just getting a drum machine was like a big ass deal.
Definitely. So, you remember, what was your first piece of equipment?
My first piece to do what?
To beats.
To do beats. It was a SK1 Casio keyboard.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Well, I always get this confused. It was really a sonic drum. That was and it's funny. This is a it was a toy, the Mattel company, Mattel.
Oh, wow.
Actually made a kind of a drum machine that had 4 pads on it, and you can actually program it at the time. And that was my first thing where I actually had drums, and I started playing that. And then I moved to the Casio keyboard that had a sampling technology.
Gotcha. Was that around the same time that you had met Cam and y'all started hanging out or whatnot?
Pretty much, man. Like I knew Cam. I mean, we grew up in the same neighborhood. You know, he lived kind of up the block from me, so we knew each other since we was around that first or second grade. You know, so yeah, we started taking a school bus together, and that's how we built our relationship. And then, you know, mutual interests, music, sports, etc. We just did all of the same things.
Gotcha. You a tall dude, so you was hooping too?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I played. You know, everybody had hoop dreams. You know, for the most part, until I got smart.
Gotcha. So everybody, right? So everybody says that Cam and Mace was super nice. Can you vouch for that?
No, I could definitely vouch for that.
Okay.
I can vouch for that for sure. They definitely played ball. Cam was definitely, definitely good. He was getting scouted by John Thompson for Georgetown and all of that stuff. So he was definitely on the path to playing ball.
Wow.
You know, and that's kind of how me and him was. Like, he was on the path to playing ball, and I kind of was too, but I was really doing the music thing.
Got you. So the first time that people really knew of you, at least if they read the liner notes and was paying attention to the mixtapes and stuff, was Children of the Corn. So obviously you and Cam came up together. Big L grew up not too far from where you were as well. So how did you guys end up forming this? I guess it was kind of a loose-knit crew that turned into a group, right?
Right. I mean, we was all in the neighborhood having hoop dreams, playing ball, and doing what we do as teenagers. And you know, we started making music. Like, I still was being serious. Every year I got a piece of equipment and, you know, started taking music more serious. And, you know, I used to pull Cam off the basketball court physically. Right. Just to come to my house so we can make music together. So we started making music. Big L was making music at the same time. He ended up getting a record deal when he got discovered by Lord Finesse. And it kind of just all worked itself because we was all doing the same thing at the same time. So when he actually came up with the name Children of the Corn Group because he wanted to create a crew. And we were already rappers, you know, for the most part. Not me, but Cam, you know, Big L, you know, Bloodshed, Mace, McGruff, you know, all of us was kind of rapping. So we said, you know, why don't we get together? We seen, you know, Wu-Tang and all the other crews getting together, so why don't we?
Right, and I mean, it wasn't that long afterwards because Wu-Tang was like 94.
Right.
I think what Children of the Corn was like, what, 95, 96?
I mean, literally, like, we were together. But again, you know, the whole business thing, you know, Big L was he was the main one with the first one that got the record deal, major record deal. So we were all trying to figure out, like, how can we all put this together? So it kind of came together a little different than Wu-Tang did.
Got you. And we'll get back to Children of the Corn for sure. With Big L, man, like, it's amazing to me that, like, Big L still has diehard fans. But they don't all look alike. Like, you'll meet a white cat that looks super straight-laced, that has every big white labels, everything. Then you meet a super hood dude, a dude from the West Coast. But even people in other countries, like, what was it about L that just enamored him to people to where, like, it's been years since he passed. And people will still be like, nah, Big L is my favorite rapper of all time.
I mean, I think he just... You know, it's one of those things. It's a snapshot of the moment. You know, when he was right about to kind of reach his peak in the music game, people respected him. And I just feel like people still was attached. They wanted him to be that next one. Yeah. And unfortunately, he couldn't really, you know, be that. Especially when music kind of changed as well at that kind of time when he was kind of, you know, doing his thing. But yeah, it is kind of amazing that, like, even today, it's like, you know, people still like his rap pattern. They can, you know, memorize his lyrics. And definitely. I just think it's just one of those things. It's just one of the classic golden era kind of feelings about him that people just attach to.
Definitely. And it's where do you think? Because he was supposed to be. He had already dropped the Ebonics thing, which went crazy. And the rumors were, and Dame and them confirmed that he was going to sign to Rockefeller. Now, had he not passed and had signed to Rock, like, where do you think he'd be at now? Do you think it would have just took off crazy?
I think he would have definitely took off crazy, and I think his career would have been kind of what Nas' career is now. Whereas Nas is well respected as a lyricist.
Right.
He's not like the overly commercialized rapper.
Right.
But when you mention his name, when you mention the top rappers, and I think that L would have been one of them. Got you.
Now, L got his deal. McGruff got a deal.
Right.
Mace obviously got a deal.
Right.
And with Bad Boy or whatnot, is that why we never saw a Children of the Corn official project back then?
Yes.
You say, period.
Yes. I mean, pretty much, with the way you kind of line it up, that's kind of what happened. L got the deal. McGruff had his deal. Mace had his deal, and it kind of left us, which was Cam and Bloodshed without a deal.
Passed, right?
Well, we actually got a deal.
Okay.
We got a deal with a label, Freeze Records, which was distributed by Priority. And a lot of people don't know that
Freeze put out Rockefeller shit first. Right.
So they put out their record first, The Reasonable Doubt, and we were the actually next release after Reasonable Doubt. And so that's kind of how that worked. But Blood passed away, and that kind of made forced Cam into being a solo artist.
Wow.
So to answer your question, yes, that's why the Children of the Corn never really fully collectively came together as a group, because we were still positioning ourselves as individuals first.
Right.
And again, it wasn't a plan like Wu-Tang. Like, it wasn't to say everybody get on one record first.
All of y'all were young. Like, at that time, Wu-Tang, Jizza and RZA had record deals. They already knew the business had been jerked.
That's kind of
or whatever.
True. Right.
So if everybody's a teenager, it's kind of difficult to navigate something that none of y'all really know about.
Right. I mean, when you put it that way, I never really thought about it like that, but it's definitely true, because we didn't have a RZA. We didn't have even though L was the main dude, we still didn't have anybody kind of pulling us together saying, hey, we need to form.
Yeah, most definitely. So you and Cam end up working together a lot. He signs a deal with Entertainment. You sign a deal to do production for Entertainment and kind of oversee most of the production on his first two albums. Did you guys know at all that it was going to be that? Like, 357 came out and, like, The Streets messed with it, and Horse and Carriage came out and it was over.
Right.
You know what I mean? Did y'all know that y'all had some joints? Because it really, at that point, I think I've heard Cam say before, like, he still wasn't really taking rap super serious.
Right, yeah. I mean, because at that time, again, I'll be honest, like, we were doing music, but Cam's life was more towards basketball. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, basketball was going to be his way out.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like the music thing was always a second thing. Yeah, I could do it, but I'm not like sure if it's going to be.
It's the backup plan.
Right, and even when he got the deals, like, I could do it, but is this really going to work? And then if you kind of think back at that time, we was dealing with the Bad Boy era.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we was still like, yo, we ain't trying to put on no shiny suits.
Right.
Like, we ain't doing that.
That was ruling the everything at that point.
We ain't trying to rap on none of these 80s samples and stuff.
Right.
So that's kind of why those records came out, like 357 and I did Pull It as well.
What?
So
I always ask, because at that time, I think when Pull It came out,
on the album?
Not even why wasn't it on the album, but why wasn't it even pushed? Like, it was like, at one point in time, it might have been a 2-week to month run, but it was the biggest record in New York City.
Right.
At a point, it was, when people talk about tunnel bangers, like, that is one of the ones. Right. So, why wasn't it pushed?
Easy answer. The sample didn't clear. Sample didn't clear. So it was one of those situations where can't push it out there too much because they were suing, right. And so that's what happened. And it's, the funny story about that is the sample ended up getting cleared later on, though.
Oh man!
After actually when we were about to release the SDE album. Oh, okay. Because we actually thought about putting it on that album.
You guys should have.
Right. I mean, I don't know why we didn't.
That was one of those were during the times, and we have a lot of younger listeners, but that was during the time where, it wasn't easy to get the songs that you wanted to hear. I've bought whole CDs for one song. Right. And people would have, people bought SDE anyway.
Right. But if you heard something that you liked,
exactly.
You would buy the whole album.
Exactly. And at that point, DMX was pretty much, he was the guy. Right. At the time, who was on Pull It. With Horse and Carriage, though, that was one of them joints that kind of came out of nowhere for people. Right. What do you remember about putting that whole thing together, and then the whole thing of Mace not really getting in the video and yada yada?
Yeah, but Horse and Carriage was that was produced by the Track Masters, but that was again.
But you executive produced the album, so I'm sure.
It was.
You had a lot of
I told you we was in the Bad Boy era, so exactly. Me, I was at that point I was still doing. I was trying to do stuff for the streets. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So, and Jacob at the time, they were the businessmen, so they understood that this is what we do for the streets, but we got to do something that's going to be for the radio. Right. So Track Masters, of course, at the time they was producing Will Smith and all of that stuff, so that was a perfect marriage. But as far as the Horse and Carriage thing, that was the transition. We kind of thought, all right, Mace. People could see Cam as Mace's protege, with a harder edge, and as far as with the video, that was just young people not really knowing the business and how stuff go on behind the scenes. Right. You know what I mean? And that's just really what it is. At that time, people were it was not many opportunities to get paid. So at that time, Mace was like, hey, like you want me to appear in a video. Right. That's going to cost. Right. So Cam ain't understand that, and, things happen.
It happened, yeah, it is what it is. And it's still happening.
Right, and that's
them
still...
dudes.
Right. Now
they're like an old married couple.
Right. It's still happening, and, hey.
Yeah, now, Entertainment ends up, losing their distribution deal, so you guys kind of move on and go your separate ways. But during that time, also... Cam and you were putting together what would become a huge movement in the Diplomats, and a lot of people don't know that kind of the structure of the Diplomats and even the logo was your brainchild. Right.
The Diplomats pretty much started out in my basement. You can go search on Google Jim Jones interviews and different things, and he'll tell you pretty much he thought up the name Diplomats. Right. And I thought up the whole concept of what it was going to be about. From the whole logo, I designed the logo, the Diplomats, and all of that. And because I had a vision of, at that time. So now we thinking about forming a crew. At that time, it was Cash Money. It was No Limit. Yeah. It was, West Coast Death Row, Rockefeller. So we said, we need to create our own crew. Originally, the Diplomats concept was supposed to be, instead of having people from your neighborhood, we wanted to have people represent from all over the United States.
Which makes sense.
Right. Yeah. That's where the Diplomats name came from. Right. So we initially we was recruiting artists. We had rappers from Florida, from Chicago, from LA. And they were going to be representing the Diplomats, but from where they was from.
Well, is it any of those artists that went on to become like known artists?
Not really. Okay. Not really. No, we didn't really stick with them like we should have.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Now, how did it feel for you? Because you went on and doing production for a bunch of other people. Right. But how did it feel for you knowing that this was kind of your brainchild to see it like blow up crazy and you weren't like directly involved?
At first, honestly, I knew I knew it would work.
Yeah.
And that's not even being arrogant, but it's just one of those things when you kind of set up a plan and you have a vision. I'm a producer, I have a vision, so I seen that this is what we were going to do if we kind of lined everything up the right way.
Right.
Initially I kind of felt a little funny because it was, again, it's like when you're involved in something, and you involved, but then you're not really involved.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like people looking at you like, oh, well, why you ain't?
Right, yeah, like we know you from over here.
Right.
Why
you not over there? Or, if you did that, then why you not with them?
Right.
And that part of it, was a little bit tough. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, again, I kept busy. That didn't stop me.
Yeah, definitely. Now, being from Harlem,
right.
You were around during the early days of, Rockefeller, ski beats and hop and everybody.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what took so long for you to finally get placed on some of Jay's stuff? Because once you did, like you had 2-3 joints, but you would think that, you being right there.
The straight talk, honestly, I believe it's because I had the opportunity to sign with them, and I did.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Dame offered me a contract. I didn't sign it.
No, what period was this? Was this super
This was
early?
Well, Dame used to actually manage us as well. He managed Children of the Corn as a group. So we were always we were involved with him, but Jay was his main artist, and when they, when Jay was popping, even like, we used to go on tour with Jay-Z when he first came out with his records, and he came out with the Feeling It single and all of that. So we was around all of that stuff, and even when we signed with Freeze Records, we were still kind of involved with it. But it was a point after when they really started popping, then they got their office, you know what I'm saying, and it was Rockefeller was really a label.
Right.
It was kind of a part where, we had to make a transition, Should we roll with Rockefeller, or should we try to take our chances and do our own thing? Yeah. And honestly, at that time, Rockefeller wasn't really trying to show us no money.
Right.
It wasn't the Rockefeller like that.
Yeah.
So that's honestly because I didn't, sign those contracts and roll with them.
Yeah.
Then, they had to roll with the people that was close to them.
Right. Was Ski signed to them as a producer?
Ski was never signed to them as a producer either. But Ski, that's my man, and he, Ski was there since day.
Yeah, because he's Can I Get Open?
I mean, literally, going up to his apartment in the Bronx, Jay-Z, writing, feeling it, and all of that. So he's there, from day one.
That's wild. Wild. So how did the first placement happen with Jay?
Which one was the first placement?
I think it was the
damn.
It wasn't Blueprint 3, it was the other.
Oh yeah, Dope Man. Yeah. Dope Man placement came from hip hop.
Okay.
Hip hop is my boy, and hip hop will tell you too, we go back, I was the first producer that he actually seen produce.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like he went to my house and he actually seen, all right, this is how the process works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he was the A&R. Actually, I think that song, Dope Man, I did that track with Cam. That was a Cam track originally.
Yeah.
Somehow another DJ K. Slay got his hands on it. And,
that was that time.
Yeah,
that was
time
period of time.
When records came out.
Yeah.
Pop heard it on the K. Slay's tape. Like, yo, what's up with that?
I need that.
And the rest is history for that.
Now you got a lot of songs that were meant for somebody. And which I think a lot of producers do, but I think your stories are a little more interesting.
Right.
So you got, I know you've told it all the time, but you got to tell the Many Man story and how that just jumped. When it went from with Cam to Nas to 50.
Right. Absolutely. It's different now. As far as music is happening, people are making music so fast. But back then, music was made slower, so you had to physically go in the studio with artists to actually make a song.
No emailing tracks.
Right, no emailing tracks or whatever. So, the Many Men track that I did for 50 Cent originally started as a Diplomat song.
Okay.
Exactly. So Cam was on it. Cam Jewels and Jim was on that song originally, and that was recorded in my crib. And then
I'm shocked that hasn't made it onto a mixtape somewhere yet.
Yeah, I still have it. I still actually had a version of that as well. And then just in the process of shopping tracks, Nas needed some tracks. Sent them some tracks. Next thing you know, they called me and say, yo, Nas picked 2 joints. Went in the studio with Nas, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
And with that, though, it's kind of funny because, I told the story all the time, because Nas did that track, 50 was actually in the studio.
It's track masters.
With track masters, listening to Nas do the track, and asked the A&R, which was Lenny Nicholson at the time, could he have a copy of the track to write to? Right, so he asked him for a copy of the track to write to.
Right.
Lenny gave him the copy of the song, and then I don't know how long it took, but 50 got shot.
Right.
And he called me from Pennsylvania while he was healing up. Like, yo, I got this track. I got that track from Lenny. And, when I get on, I want to use this song. I wrote a crazy song to it. So at the time, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, like every rapper is
right.
like, I got a crazy song.
Right.
I got your beat. It's great. You like, dude, Nas, what
Right,
this track is going on the Nas album. Right.
And so I'm just, everybody, it's still happening today. Everybody say, yo, hold this track. So,
right.
But he kept his word, so he kept his word. Things started popping for him, and the club came out, and now it's 13 million copies later.
I know them royalty checks and publisher checks gotta be nice.
Yeah, I'm still living off of it.
Hey, man, can't be mad at that at all. Can't be mad at that at all. One of the things that I thought was dope about you, man, is like you don't hear of too many people in this business that went to college.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what was it, especially you being that your uncle was a DJ, your grandfather was business-wise, what was it in you that was like, okay, I need this education component, let me go ahead and go to school?
I always just felt like, it sound corny, but just knowledge is power. Like I always wanted to be the one to kind of get the information because I wanted to be in the business, but I knew that in order to survive in this business, I needed to actually know it, and that was just one of the things. And again, my uncle and my grandfather especially inspired me to be on the business side of things at all times. So yeah, I went to school, I studied music in school, and that was even my role as far as my crew, with Children on the Corn, with Cam, they used to look up to me as being like, yo, so what's this? Yo, should we let this guy manage us? And
right.
All of those different things. So I was kind of learning as, on the job.
Gotcha. So you later on in your life, and I know right now you're doing adjunct professor stuff at SAE,
right?
And here in Atlanta, and you've also written a book, which we'll get into. But even before any of that, you were teaching students, like high school level students, the music business and music production in New York City, right?
Right. Yeah. I actually started. I actually taught 10-year-olds on up.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And that's not to cut you off, but that's so important because we don't have music in schools anymore.
Right. Exactly.
So that's super important.
It was something that I fell in love doing because I thought it was needed. My college roommate, he was a principal, and when he seen me doing, kind of teaching online, I started a website. He was like, yo, you should come to the school and do that, for a few weeks, show the kids. And I did it for a few weeks, but I loved it so much that I ended up doing it for 6-7 years.
Wow.
So I kind of started a music program with him in the New York City public schools, which was a music and business program, and I taught kids how to create their music, and the business side of it. So they created their music and their songs and their albums, and I taught them how to distribute it, market it and everything, and make their own videos. So I kind of did that, and I went to school, and I also did it in high school as well.
That's super dope, man. Do you ever hear from any of those students anymore?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have students right now that's graduating college, which makes me feel old. But I mean,
should make you feel accomplished.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like wow. Like I remember, you was in, middle school, but it makes me feel good, and some of them are actually still pushing along, and one in particular actually has his own label with artists.
Wow.
So I mean that makes me extremely proud.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. That's amazing. So the beat game, the book.
The beat game, yep. The beat game.
What prompted you to want to write a book on, just basically how to navigate this business?
Well, I mean,
from a producer side.
Pretty much exactly that. Just through my experience, dealing with starting and doing the diplomats thing and creating my own company and just learning on the job. There was nobody to really mentor me to that or to answer certain questions that I had. And I just felt like when I tried to look for the information, there was no books out there that really had a true representation of what was going on in the real world. Like, of course, you can buy a music industry book, but they're going to have terms and definitions in there of what's happening, but not really tell you the real back story of it. Right. So that's kind of why I wanted to write a book, and it's called A Beat Game because, I love basketball, I love music, and I wanted the book to be kind of like a playbook for producers. So I know some producers are not going to sit there and read the book straight through.
Right.
But when they have a question, now they got a reference to kind of go to the book and say, oh, what is this about? Boom.
And how and it's available, everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's available.
Yeah,
it's available everywhere online. Amazon will get it to you next day, of course.
No excuse. You can get it on your Kindle, get it on your phone,
right,
whatever.
Everywhere. Yeah, I'm working on actually the Beat Game 2, second edition, coming up real soon. Working on that hard.
What's included in 2 that you didn't get around to?
With 2 is actually this paradigm shift that we're dealing with technology.
Gotcha.
Right. So updating the book, and everybody's running around crazy about music streaming, and is it killing the industry, or what's going on, and how can producers get paid? So just building on that concept, what's the next phase, trying to educate producers on what the music business actually looks like, and let them understand that it's not dying, it's just changing.
Okay.
And that's what that's about.
That makes perfect sense. One of the stories you have in there is about, the homie and friend of the show, Jake One, with the whole WWE thing.
Right.
You guys can go back and listen to the archives and hear the story from him directly. But do you remember a time where you signed a contract for a record and you was like, okay, this is good. This is what I need right now. And in hindsight, you like, oh my God, I shouldn't have signed that.
Honestly, not really a contract, but there was a few situations where I said, you know what, I should have kind of let, like even with I would say like choices where even one of the beats that I did for Jay-Z's album, was it What They Gonna Do Part 2? It's on the Blueprint 3. Method Man actually wanted that beat.
Okay.
Right? And they wanted to make it a single. And that's just one of the things that I said, you know what, I should have kind of pushed forward.
So it's like, do I want the single from Meth that's going to get pushed, or do I want to have the last song on the Jay-Z album?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, that's honestly, that's keeping it real. And again, I think, that Blueprint sold 3 million copies.
Yeah.
But a Method Man single would have probably propelled.
You never know. Like
5 other singles.
Yeah, right.
Or,
exactly.
for me, so.
Exactly. For you speak a lot about working with the youth and all of that stuff. And do you feel like your work at SAE, your work in schools in New York City has helped you kind of be that guy that can bridge the gap between this new generation of artists and producers and the established generation?
I'm hoping so. I mean, that's my intentions. You know, like I feel like, you know, we was kind of talking earlier about this. I just feel that you never really have teachers that have that real world experience. Right. You know, and I think that I think my teaching style is kind of that, where, you know, I'm never trying to hate on the young guys or young gals trying to do music or anything like that. I just kind of want them to understand that the business part is parallel with the music and the creative part. Mm-hmm. You know, and no matter what, you know, people say, you gotta focus on the business, because at the end of the day, like, I know most artists today, they want to put the music out and they think that they can figure out how to get paid later. Right. And that's kind of my life's journey, is to kind of stop that whole mentality. Right.
Most definitely. I mean, it's paying dues don't mean you got to get jerked.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. That's a great way to say it. I mean, because you know, I mean, it's like I say in my book. You know, if you worked at McDonald's, you have certain expectations of what you're supposed to do, but you know how much money you're gonna get. Right. For some reason in this music game, right, we don't think like that. It's like we do it, we put it online, we want everybody to love it, and then we don't really know how to monetize it or where it's coming from or how we should get paid and all of those things.
Nah, you're 100% right, man. I definitely appreciate the time, man. Great insight, great stories, man. Please tell people where they can follow you on social media, and because you put some beats on there too. You still got some fire.
Oh, I mean, I never start working. Yeah. I mean, I never start working, and you know, you can definitely catch me, of course, on Facebook /Digga or Instagram /6figure_Digga. Yeah, man. I mean, you can just catch me. You know, hit me up. You got questions about the music business? I'm there. You know, definitely check my IG page. Yeah, because I'm active on that. I'm constantly putting up stuff about the music business. And
dropping some gems on there.
I'm trying. You know, I'm just trying to get people inspired to understand that it's on us to make the music industry what it is.
Most definitely, man. I appreciate the time, man. We appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate y'all listening, and we'll be back next week with another dope show. Peace.
Peace.